Hello, it's Joe here for joyridertv, and we're back finally with an update to the global speed stick competition on joyridertv. The global speed stick competition is open to anybody with a sailing boat. Can be a monohull, can be foiling, as long as it's a boat and it sails, then the competition is open to you. If you've already sent your highest speed in and perhaps you've since been faster, or maybe when you sent your speed in before, you were sailing with two people and you've since been out single-handed and did what you thought was pretty well, then as long as it's not exactly the same boat with the same number of people, we could put you on the speed stick twice. If you're sailing a different boat or if you're sailing single-handed, then that's fine as well. All the details of how to get on the speed stick are in the video description below. So if you want to get involved, just check it out there. But it's definitely worthwhile doing. It puts another angle on your sailing outing to go out with a bit of purpose to go and see if you can smash a high speed. So let's crack on, and we're going to go through the whole speed stick to see who has done what. We're steaming in at 58th. We've got Christian in Austria, in Mondsee, sailing a Hobie 16 solo. Then in 57th, in Galveston Bay, Texas, USA, we have Joey sailing a Hobie Wave at 11.10 knots, which is pretty good going for a Hobie Wave, I think you'll find. Keeping it in Texas, we've got in 56th position, we've got Karen and Chris on a Hobie 16, banging in 13 knots. Then moving up to 55th position in the Nederlands in Wessem, we have on a Hobie 14 Turbo, we've got Marnik, who's got 13.01 knots, just beating Karen and Chris by 0.01. That's how tight the speed stick is. Very exciting. And then in 54th, we've got a monohull, an RS Aero, which is a single-hander, where we have James in Wallowa Lake, Oregon, USA, 13.7, which is smoking for such a boat. If we get more entries from monohulls come in, we'll do a separate monohull speed stick so that perhaps James would no longer be in 54th. He'd probably be in the top 10. Easy. A new entry in this edition in 53rd position. We've got Arlen and Jeremy in Australia on Lake Illawarra in New South Wales on a Windrush 14. So we can see the stylings of the Windrush 14 there. It does look somewhere between a Prindle, a Hobie, but mostly it's a Windrush. So we've got Arlen and Jeremy there banging in 14.4 on the Windrush. We've got Emil and Sebastian on a Hobie 16 in Kolding Bay, Denmark with 14.7 knots. Then sailing a Hobie 18 Magnum. That means it's got wings. We've got Bill on Lake Hamilton, Indiana, USA with 14.77 knots. Then steaming it in with 15 on the nose, Clearwater, Florida, USA on a Hobie 16. We've got Mark and Jameson Gallagher sending it. Very nice. And then just nudge ahead there on 15.4 in Lake Hartwell, Georgia, where it all seems to be going down, is on a Hobie 16. We've got Tob and Chris in 49th position. And in 48th position, we have Gear Report's own Jeff Kress sailing solo on a Hobie 16 in Greensboro, North Carolina, with a speed of 15.63 knots. Then in 47th position, we've got David on the Prindle 18 in Lake Jocassee, South Carolina, USA, 15.64 knots. And then fresh in, and you may have seen this guy in action sending it on Show Us Your Cat 2 weeks ago. In 46th position, we have Aziz sailing with Hani on the Dart 16 in Rassur, Egypt, with a speed of 15.65 knots. Sending it. And then in 45th position on the Hobie 16 in Cartle Lake, Illinois, USA, 15.8 knots for Chad and Brian. And then fresh in on an RS200. That is a monohull. We have got Kelso sailing in Island Barn Reservoir, Molesey, UK, with a speed of 15.8 knots. That is absolutely smoking on an RS200, which, again, I think we should have more monohulls so that the monohulls can have their own speed stick, which means that Kelso there would be in the top 5, I should think. Okay, in 43rd position, we've got Christian and Wolf sailing a Hobie Tiger on Markelberger See, Germany, with a speed of 15.82 knots. Then in the USA, in Pennsylvania, on the Hobie 16, in 42nd position, we've got Chase, Jim and Colette. 3 up with a speed of 16 knots. 16. 41st position, we've got Martinez on a Nacra 5.2 in Elektrani, Lithuania, with a speed of 16.14. Very nice. In 40th position, we've got Marco in Melchesini, Lake Garda, Italy, on the Hobie 16 with a speed of 16.3 knots. 40 now. We've got Dimitri in Folsom Lake, California, on the Nacra 460 with a speed of 16.32. Moving up to 38th position, we've got Nicholas in Swift Creek, Richmond, Virginia, USA, with a speed of 16.42 knots. Then in 37th position, we've got the one and only Obi-Wan Kenobi, sailing a Hobie 16 on Sacramento River, USA, with a speed of 16.5. 36th position, we've got Jonathan and Preston on a Hobie 16. A lot of 16s here. Lake Norman, North Carolina, USA, speed 16.51. Then in 35th, we've got Daniel, Timothy and Stephen on a 16, Lake Nabagaman, Wisconsin, USA, speed 16.52. Then in 34th place, we're moving up the rankings. Sailing solo, Lake Hartwell, Georgia, USA, the speed is 16.6 and the rider is Todd, sailing solo. Then also sailing solo, 33rd, we've got Carlos, sailing in Lake Erie, Ontario, Canada, 16.68. Then we are getting juicy now. In 32nd position, we've got Russell sailing solo in an undisclosed location in the USA with a speed of 16.9 knots. Toasty. Then in 31st place, we have got Herbert sailing on Nordsee, Austria, on the FX1 with a speed of 16.9 knots. Very nice indeed. And then we're heading back to Florida, USA, for 30th place. Slipping inside the top 30, we've got Robert and Aaron on a 16, 17.19 knots. 29th place, we have got Kevin, again sailing a 16 on Ogden Dunes, Indiana, USA, 17.4 knots. Very nice. And then we've got some new movers here. In 28th place, we have got Isaac and Judah in St. Martin, Orient Bay, 17 18.45 knots. Very nice. And then we've seen him before on the 16, but here he is with his new boat, is in 27th position, sailing in Maputo, Mozambique. We've got Damien on his Hobie Pearl with a speed of 17.46 knots. We're expecting to see bigger speeds from Damien coming soon, but for a good early run on the new boat, that is smoking it nicely. Then another one new in 26th possession, we've got the one and only Knack Daddy Roger Bates on NACRA 5.0, sailing in Greensboro, North Carolina, USA, 17.46 knots. That is tight. In 25th position, another monohull from Australia, an undisclosed location in Australia, because we've got to keep some things under wraps. This was Bailey and Charlie on the Flying 11 with 17.5 knots. Then Panama City, Florida for 24th with Andrew and Julie on the Hobie 16. It was Andrew and Julie who did those lovely Christmas lights that you may remember from Christmas. 17.84 knots. And then in 23rd, we're going to Germany, to Ammersee for Chris and Matthias on the Hobie 16 with an absolutely cranking 17.9 knots. This is almost looking very respectable. I'd say 18 knots is very respectable for any outing on any catamaran, unless it's foiling. 22nd position, we have Philippe on the Dart 18 in Lacanau, France, with 17.95 knots. Then in Lake Attitash, Massachusetts, USA, with 18.15 knots, sailing single-handed. This is a very good speed for single-handed Hobie 16 sailing. We have Eric the Hammer in 21st. Then in 20th position, we've got Jose and Hugo on a NACRA 5.7, sailing in Huelva El Portil, Spain, with 18.16. And then nudging it up with 18.17. We've got on Ammersee, that's another one for Ammersee in Germany. We've got on a Hobie 16, we've got Arnold cranking it in 19th. And then in 18th, we've got a Joyrider long-time specialist, Chris, in the Gulf of Mexico, USA, on the Prindle 19 with 18.42 knots. Then in 17th place, we've got sailing a Hobie Tiger in 17th place, Holger and Guido in Gravelingen, Nederlands, 18.45 knots. Keeping it in Holland, in 16th place, we've got Robert on the FX1 in Walderwild Lake Zeewald with 18.57 knots. Whew, this is getting exciting as we enter the top 15 with Fulvio on the Hobie 16 single-handed in Qatar, Doha. He's doing 18.72 knots. You could think, surely this is the fastest Hobie 16 single-handed speed. But no, because fresh in, we've got in 14th place from Lake Lanier, Georgia, Dave. I believe he's now known as Office Hands Dave or the Monkey Scraper. 18.9 knots single-handed in 14th place. And then in 13th place, you're not going to believe this, is Dave as well, but this time sailing with Zoe on the Hobie 16, Lake Lanier, Georgia, again with 18.92 knots. This seems to be a speed where Dave is comfortable, but this is showing that you can get on the speed stick twice if you're either sailing a boat with different amounts of people or if you're sailing different types of boat. And I believe that the solo 16 is very different to the double-handed Hobie 16, so get involved. 12th position, we've got Mike and Andrew on a Hobie 16, Bristol, Indiana, USA, with a speed of 19.37. We're into the 19s. Then in 11th, from my hometown of Felixstowe, UK, sailing Hobie Tiger, we've got Ed and Zach with a speed of 19.43, which is pretty juicy for a Tiger. In fact, I can let you know now that is the top Tiger speed on the speed stick at this time. In 10th place, we have got in Gravelingmer, Netherlands, 20.1 knots on a Nacra into 20, Kuhn and Roos. Then in 9th place on a Hobie Fox in Lake Annecy, France, 21.38 knots, Hobie Fox, Tom. Don't know who he was sailing with on that occasion. But the Fox going that fast, he would definitely be sailing with somebody else. Then in 8th place, back to Lake Lanier, Georgia for Steve and Nick with a very respectable 21.7 knots on the Hobie 16. Then in 7th place, we've got Steve and Oscar in Axmouth, South Devon, UK, 22.2 knots for the RS 800. So this would actually be the second place monohull on the speed stick, because the first place monohull, I'm going to say it now, is at an unattainable speed by any non-foiling human being on a monohull. Into 6th position, we've got Adam and Tsatsek on a Hobie 16, flying the flag for Poland in Zegrz Lake, Warsaw, with 22.24 knots. And then nudging it up, we've got another Hobie Fox in the top 10. This is great to see, because if you're not familiar with the Hobie Fox is a 20-foot catamaran. It's like a scaled up FX1, slightly bigger than a Tiger, at 20 feet long, and it is a machine. We've got Oliver and Will sailing in Colonia de San Pierre, Mallorca, Spain, with 22.3 knots there on their Fox. And that is good. Then in 4th place, and we saw him further down the leaderboard on the Pearl, but we have Damien sailing in Maputo, Mozambique on the Hobie 16. And this is the top Hobie 16 speed at the moment, which is 22.4 knots. Excellent. And then we're into the top 3. And I will announce now that the top 3 is ridiculous. All of these speeds are pretty juicy. So I would say, in a way, that 4th place is the new 1st place, because the top 3, from years and years of trying to go fast with a GPS here in Vasiliki Bay, I can tell you that these speeds are robust. So in 3rd place, and absolutely cranking, this is the fastest a Hobie FX1 has ever gone, to my knowledge, is Dennis. And this was actually sailing here in Vasiliki on an FX1, 24.35 knots. He is discovering there the colour of adrenaline. And then in 2nd place, and the fastest monohull you are ever going to meet, is Pietro and Fabio sailing in Alassio, Italy, on a Flying Dutchman with, if you haven't heard this before, wait for it, this is bonkers, 25.1 knots. That is so fast that they probably travelled back in time and had another go. And then in 1st place, sailing in Galveston Bay, Texas, USA, on a Prindle 18.2, which is a lot quicker boat than I ever thought it was by the results here. It was Bryce and Scott with a speed of 25.8 knots. There. So amazing that they can go that fast on such a boat. I am amazed with that, but absolutely cooking. So there we go. That is the top 58 on the speed stick. Thanks very much indeed. Summer is coming here in Vasiliki, so very exciting times. But if you are going sailing, take a GPS with you and get involved on the speed stick here on Joyrider TV. Thanks very much, and we'll be back with some more soon with some more. Thank you.